You're listening to The Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
It is Thursday. It is November 2nd. And it has absolutely nothing to do with pie, that we are doing everything pie today.
We are doing everything pie.
Because
it is our pie day.
It is our pie day, even though it's not 3.14. We wanted to have pie. So
why not?
Pie here on The Coffee Hour.
We made our own holiday.
We're going to talk all about pie today on this episode of The Coffee Hour. And it is live from the Winnikin Room at the LCMS International Center in St. Louis. Special guests, great food, great pie, great friends here. We are just excited to be celebrating our first pie social on The Coffee Hour. Now, folks are going to ask where that idea came from. We're going to explain how it was a very detailed process with lots of steps that we came to the conclusion to have a pie social. But first, I want to say thanks to Concordia University, Wisconsin for supporting The Coffee Hour. You can find out more about Concordia University, Wisconsin at cuw.edu.
Live uncommon.
So, Sarah, would you like to explain the very scientific process that brought us to the point of having a pie social?
Oh, yeah. So on one of our episodes of The Coffee Hour, someone mentioned it was Josh Davis.
Douglas,
sorry. For Mission Advancement, and he started talking about his favorite pie, which is the pie that I made, actually. And then we were like, why don't we have pie on The Coffee Hour? Let's do it. And that is the beginning of Pie Day.
And then we said, let's have a pie social.
Invite all our friends.
Invite all our friends at the International Center. And
here we are.
And you know what? Among the KFUO hosts, there's one pie aficionado as well.
That's true.
Did you know that?
I do now, because he's sitting right next to me.
Pastor Matt Youngblood Clark of Ascension Lutheran Church in St. Louis. He's also one of the hosts of Wrestling with the Basics here on KFUO. Pastor Clark, welcome back to The Coffee Hour.
Thank you so very much. It doesn't sound like you guys needed much pushing to get this pie social off the ground. I mean,
no,
not much encouragement needed. But thanks for having me. This is, ever since Andy contacted me about the pie social, it has been on my calendar. I've had to rearrange my schedule, cancel other commitments, prioritize to be here this morning, but it was well worth it. This is amazing. Lots and lots of pie, all different sorts. And I'm just impressed as you come in the room. I mean, they're organized by fruit or custard or, special dietary needs. I mean, this is the most organized pie social I've ever been to. So thank you so much for the invitation to be here. Great way to start the day.
I love the commentary, too, because we're actually using our remote broadcast equipment with a remote headset. So it looks like we're like at a parade or a sport event.
Play-by-play at the pie social.
Yeah,
true,
yeah. And Pastor Clark is like giving the nice commentary on the...
We need to describe the room here. And I think I put my pie in the wrong place. I didn't realize there were more tables over here, too.
There are pies all around the room.
Everywhere.
And we also have coffee today. So the Coffee Hour actually has coffee today. Our friends at Taleo Coffee here in Kirkwood have provided coffee. We're going to talk with Olivia from Taleo Coffee in the second half of the program, learn more about Taleo Coffee. Interesting name, right?
Mm-hmm.
Any idea where that name comes from, Pastor Clark?
It sounds biblical.
It sounds biblical?
It?
That's a good guess. Yeah. We'll find out more in the second half of the program.
Fantastic.
Okay, so Pastor Clark, first of all, before we talk about the worthiness of pie, the merits of pie, what pies have you tried so far this morning? I see you have a piece of pie in front of you, and I'm going to continue eating mine, too, because I didn't have enough time to finish
on my first pass, I had Mary from KFUO had her blueberry cherry pie, which was excellent. It took the time to even cut out of the crust autumnal shapes. So she's got acorns and leaves, covering the top of her pie. Not only does it taste wonderful, it looks beautiful, too. Then I moved on to the pumpkin. It was a dairy-free pumpkin. Very good, very good. And then now I'm on the key lime. So that's what I'm working through now. And I know it's November. Key lime's kind of a summer flavor, but is there a wrong time to eat pie?
No. There isn't.
You already answered the important question. Is there a wrong time? People might say, why are you having a pie social at 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning?
Why not?
Why not?
That is the correct answer.
Time for pie.
Okay, so my husband last night when we were making our pies at 10 o'clock at night, he was like...
It's a common theme in our staff.
Yeah. Well, it was also his birthday pie. And so he was like, this has a lot of protein in it. I'm just going to eat it for breakfast. I don't think he actually did, but I was amused by that.
Why not? It's a health food.
And what pie was this that you made for your husband?
So this was a sour cream raisin pie.
Oh, yeah.
This was the pie that inspired the whole day. It was not easy.
How do you make a sour cream raisin pie?
Well, you basically make custard and put raisins in it and put it in a pie shell.
Okay.
So,
yeah. Gooseberry is similar. Gooseberry pie, you know, gooseberries are pretty tart, but then you add it to the custard and kind of sweetens it up a little bit.
Have you ever met a pie you don't like?
No, you know, I'm not a huge fan of coconut.
Okay.
But beyond that, no, I'm a lover of pie. And you mentioned, you know, this isn't Pie Day. So March 14th, right, is Pie Day, you know, 3.14, you know, the number pi. But there's also another Pie Day. The National Pie Council, in fact, has January the 23rd as their Pie Day.
Interesting.
Because, so it's 1/23, because loving pie is as easy as 1, 2, 3.
Oh, wow.
That's their words, not mine.
Okay.
Are you a member of the Pie
I am
Council?
a lifetime member of the Pie Council. I'm a card carrying member. I didn't bring my card with me. I should have.
This is not
But
surprising.
it's on radio, so why does it matter? Our listeners can see the card anyway. But yeah, my wife Lisa got me a lifetime membership for my birthday a few years ago.
What does that get you exactly?
So lots of perks. The benefits are endless, Sarah. The biggest thing the Pie Council does is they have an annual event, a pie contest in Orlando, Florida. I think it's going on like year 19 or 20, where they actually do judge the pies, and you can sample the pies, and there's, you know, different categories and different winners in each category. So I think that's the big thing, is the Pie Palooza or whatever it's called.
No, see, that's the difference
That's amazing.
between us and the Pie Council. There's no judgment here.
I mean, there might be, but
Everyone's
it's all
a winner.
in good fun.
Everyone's a winner. You brought a pie. We appreciate you for bringing a pie and celebrating with us here during the Pie Social. Joking, you know, we've been joking about pie and its merits and that sort of thing, but really thinking about, you know, when we gather as family, when we gather together with loved ones, we usually gather around food. When we gather as a congregation, think about like Advent. I know in our congregation during Advent and Lent, we have dinners usually before our evening services or after our evening services. Why is food, and particularly pie, a valuable part of fellowship? And why do we gather around food, Pastor?
Well, my love of pie personally began at a very early age, Andy. And it was at my church. So Our Savior in Fenton is where I grew up. So we have folks in St. Louis, that's kind of a suburb of the St. Louis area. And we had a pie auction. So there was someone in the congregation that had some medical needs, and to raise money, they had a pie auction. And I remember my mom, I was pretty young, my mom made a strawberry pie. And the auctioneer said, well, it looks like there's 50 strawberries in this pie, so let's start the bidding at $50. You know, and, you know, back then $50 was a lot, right? You know, and whoa, you know. So it was pie doing good and people rallying around just a fun event where we're auctioning off pies and then we're enjoying each other's pie. So I think that's just one example where, yeah, the community, the church can gather around God's gift of food, his gift of pie, use it for good, and then just enjoy fellowship. I mean, when you're gathering together just for conversation, to have a piece of pie or whatever it is, that's just great. And I think it's biblical. You know, in the Bible, we hear about people breaking bread, and even, you know, Jesus after his resurrection, you know, how he eats with people and makes breakfast even for people on the shore of the Sea of Galilee, right? And there's something to fellowship and food. I think they just go together.
They do. I agree. How does Ascension use food in fellowship?
Yeah, as I'm talking about this, I'm thinking we need to use pie a little more. Yeah, that's one thing we need to improve. We need to work on. I need to talk to our board of elders about this. but yeah, in connection to, you know, kind of pre-worship, you mentioned Advent and Lent. We have those evening services, so we have meals that precede that, where we gather together and we fellowship and we talk, and then that's in the lower level fellowship hall. We go upstairs and we worship together. We're fed by God's word. So it goes hand in hand.
Now, do you have a right and a wrong way to do pie? We know you don't like coconut, but are there rules to pie making?
Or pie eating.
Or pie eating.
You know,
or do you have a personal set of rules?
My wife is just a very good baker, so I'm spoiled. But she'll make homemade crust. So, you know, she doesn't buy the store, you know, the frozen it's always homemade, which I think is, you know, not necessary, but boy, I think that really does, you know, raise the bar when it comes to pie making, pie eating, for sure. I will say you're talking about churches and pies. The congregation I first served, Emmanuel in Waterloo, Illinois, they had an annual We're Smart and a couple other dinners, but they had a dedicated pie closet. So on the door, engraved was pie closet. So it was literally a closet primarily used for storing pies, and they had built-in shelves for those dinners. So I knew I was at the right church.
Did they have to lock the pie closet when you were around?
Hilarious.
Only if it was stocked with pie, I guess. But I knew the Lord had called me to the right place when the church.
Oh my word!
I started had a pie closet.
That's impressive.
It is impressive. I don't think there's probably a few churches out there that have that. More should, obviously.
I've never heard of that. That's amazing.
We're going to take a break in just a moment. Before we do that, though, I'm just curious, what is it particularly about pie compared to other desserts? What makes pie stand out for you compared to other desserts?
For me, I think it's the vast array of flavors, right? So even this morning we have fruits and they're kind of tart. We have chocolates that are sweet and decadent. Vast array of flavors. You can do so much with pie. It's a versatile dessert. It's one that's kind of stood the test of time, right? It's been around forever. The ancient Egyptians apparently had some kind of form of pie that they used. And then I think the 1500s Europe is kind of where it really took off. And then, of course, came to the United States, but came to America. But anyway, I think the versatility of pie, Andy, to answer your question, is one of the things that makes it a go-to dessert for me.
It can be sweet. It can be savory.
Yes.
Yeah. We have some breakfast pies, the quiches here this morning as well. So yeah, it can.
Yeah, we haven't talked about how it actually qualifies as a pie. This was a whole discussion.
Oh boy! How long is the show?
Okay, well, we do have some pie trivia too coming up in a little bit. We are going to take a short break, and we're going to learn about Taleo coffee here in just a moment, because what goes well with pie? Coffee.
Obviously.
You're listening to the Coffee Hour on KOQO. We'll continue the conversation in just a moment.
You're a miracle. You know that, right? A living, breathing, one-of-a-kind miracle. You were created to stand apart, to share your gifts in the service of others, to make an uncommon impact in a common world. And at Concordia University, it's our mission to help you do that, to live uncommon. To learn more about Concordia, go to cuw.edu.
Welcome back to the Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Golseth.
It is
I just ran across
Pie
to get pie.
Social Day. Oh, good. You finally got some pie.
I got some of my pie.
I've just been eating mine throughout the whole interview here. That's why you have guests on.
It's
so you
true.
can eat pie while you
just talk and I'll eat pie. It's
That's
fine.
right. What kind of pie do you have down there, Sarah?
So this is the one I can eat. It's cranberry jello pie.
Cranberry jello pie.
Yes.
How's it taste? Have you tasted it
I
yet?
have not tasted it. I literally just ran over here.
I'm enjoying bourbon sweet potato pie down on this end.
That's why you sent me a
Some
picture of
shopping.
bourbon.
Yes. Well, joining us now at our Pie Social, we have Olivia Tischler. She is the founder and owner of Taleo Coffee here in Kirkwood, and they have graciously provided coffee for the Coffee Hour Pie Social today. Olivia, welcome to the Coffee Hour.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It is so fun to get to have coffee with our pie this morning, and good coffee too. Occasionally, our staff will slip away in the afternoon and go over to Taleo for some coffee and just a nice casual staff meeting, because sometimes in the Coffee Hour we don't get to have coffee because we're so busy in the morning. We don't have time to
we really don't.
sneak out and go have good coffee. So occasionally we'll sneak over to Taleo Coffee and have some good coffee. Fun little coffee house right here in Kirkwood.
Yeah.
How did the idea of Taleo Coffee begin?
Yeah. So I went to college at SLU. Was actually in school for occupational therapy. That's what I thought I wanted to do. And then the Lord kind of put this idea of a coffee shop on my heart. It was kind of an idea of using a space for community and fellowship, but kind of using it for something more. So our mission is to love our neighbors. We use products that go back into the community. We're just really intentional with the environment that we create, just trying to have it be as loving as possible, just because Christians are called to love people well. And so that's kind of what I felt like I was called to kind of live out. And a coffee shop is just the avenue to do that.
I mean, and what says love more than coffee, right?
I mean, I think it's one of my love languages.
And then when you combine it with pie, even better.
Even better.
So it started in 2020?
Yeah. April of 2020 is when I started to serve the coffee at farmers markets. Did the Kirkwood Farmers Market, did Tower Grove, did Maplewood, all the different farmers markets for about a year and a half. I did a tent outside of our building while the building was being constructed. We called it the Mini on Monroe because our street is Monroe and it's our mini coffee shop. So we did that for a while. Started that in February of 2021 and then opened our doors in August of 2021 as well. And then now here we are.
Yeah.
Over 2 years later.
Yeah. It's an amazing coffee shop. Probably one of the ones I frequent the most around here. So super cool to have you here, have DeLeo Coffee here. Now, what is the name? What does that mean?
Yeah. So Teleo is the Greek root word of tetelestai, which means it is finished. And that was the last word Jesus said on the cross. So it kind of came from, I wanted to use that specifically because it was a word people didn't necessarily know. So it wasn't necessarily like, oh, that's obviously a Christian coffee shop. Because I don't want to be very evidently a Christian coffee shop because then people who have been burned by the church won't come because they don't want anything to do with it. So we want to use it as a space to have healing and show people that we just love them well. And so, but I wanted there to still be a nod to it. So when people are like, what does this mean? Then it's a very easy avenue to be able to, in a very simple way, share the gospel.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
What's on the fall menu at Teleo Coffee?
Ooh.
Yeah, we have a lot of pumpkin drinks. We have our pumpkin delight. That's like our spin on a pumpkin spice latte. It's more sweet. Then we have a frothy pumpkin, which is like a pumpkin white chocolate. That's an iced drink. And then it has like our fall foam on top, which is like a cold foam, really thick. And then we have a butter pecan cortado. And a cortado it's equal amount espresso to milk. So it's about a 4-ounce drink, pretty small, but it's for people who want a more concentrated drink.
I have to tell you, my husband has been inspired by Teleo to make, I think it's your honey bear. Is that the one with the cinnamon in it?
That's our bestseller.
Okay, so we just got an espresso machine. Well, I guess it's not just anymore. Several months ago. And his favorite thing to make for himself is a honey bear. After we went to Teleo, and he's like, this is amazing. I have to learn how to make it. So now that you have a butter pecan one, we're going to have to go, and he's going to have to figure it out so he can make it for himself, too.
Yeah, there you go.
You are his inspiration for our home espresso drinks.
I'm honored.
All right. So pairing coffee with pie, since we are celebrating pie today.
Right.
And we have our pie official here as well. Pastor Clark is our pie official.
I'm honored.
What pairs well with different kinds of pie? Pastor, do you have a favorite beverage with pie?
Well, I think of the Christmas song, right? Pass around the coffee and the pumpkin pie, right? So I think a lot of those fall pies, your pecan, your pumpkin just goes so well with a nice warm cup of coffee.
All right, Olivia, you're the coffee expert. How do we pair coffee with pie? Are there specific coffees to pair with pie? I know this is a very tricky question.
Yeah, I mean, if you get kind of just like a house blend, it usually ours has kind of a chocolatey caramel notes to it. So that would probably pair well with, like a chocolate mousse or something that kind of pairs with the chocolate. But then if you do something like a Ethiopian natural, that would give you a very fruity kind of note to it. So that could go well with your cherry pie or apple pie, all the different fruit pies.
I'm taking mental notes. This is helpful. That's really
so many things to consider.
That's great information.
And Ethiopian's my favorite.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good.
It's very good.
So do you have a favorite pie?
Probably a pumpkin pie.
Okay.
Just a traditional gal here.
Yeah, that's fine. But do you have a favorite coffee? This is what I really need to know. And I know that might be really mean asking someone who makes coffee for a living.
Which child is your favorite?
I know, right? Yeah, sorry. But I'm really curious if there's a certain, or at least a certain type of coffee. Like, I like the more sour ones, and my husband hates them. He likes the more earthy ones.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I am a big espresso fan.
Okay.
Specifically. So like I was saying, a cortado is just equal amount espresso and milk, so it's a very concentrated drink. So cortados are probably my favorite to get that espresso forward drink versus a drip coffee.
Okay.
Personally.
Yeah.
So we've paired coffee with pie. We've discussed pie. I think it's time for a little pie trivia. Are you guys ready for some pie trivia?
Yep.
All right. Now, Pastor Clark pointed out earlier that some of our earliest history or records of pie go back to Egypt. The pies were sometimes made in what? Do we know what they were made in? They were made in reeds, which were used for the sole purpose of holding and filling, not for eating with the filling.
Huh.
So is this a
Reeds.
vessel
Yeah.
for the filling?
Don't eat the reeds.
Yeah.
Don't eat the reeds. It's like the people that just eat the filling and don't eat the crust, right?
I'm not going to judge.
I might.
Just eat the filling and not the crust. I mean, now that we've developed the okay. All right.
Kind of
So
loose definition of pie. The
more
reeds with stuff inside.
pie trivia from the American Pie Council. Now, Pastor Clark, I would expect you to know all of this since you're a member of the Pie Council.
Yeah.
The
I'll
Romans.
try not to disappoint you, Andy.
Have to take your membership away.
So
Revoke my membership. It's a lifetime membership. You can't do that.
according to the American Pie Council, the Romans must have spread the word about pies around Europe, as the Oxford English Dictionary notes that the word pie was a popular word in the 14th century. The first pie recipe was published by the Romans and was for a rye-crusted goat cheese and honey pie.
Yum.
I would eat that.
It does sound interesting.
It sounds
bad.
hearty.
Hearty.
Rye crusted
Hearty
goat
pie.
cheese.
That's a savory-ish.
Savory pie.
Ish. I mean, goat cheese and honey is still a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
I'd eat it if I could.
I would be willing to try.
It seems like it needs like a little bit of herb with it, maybe goat cheese, honey, and herb pie in rye.
Are you going to make that now, Andy?
Probably not. Earliest pies were predominantly meat pies and spelled P-Y-E. Yes,
Okay.
pies.
Yeah.
Yes. So thankfully we didn't have any Sweeney Todd music
Sweeney
today.
Oh,
I know
that's a different program.
That's kind of what my thought went to.
But they originally appeared in England as early as the 12th century, and the crust of the pie was referred to as coffin.
That makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually more crust than filling. And the pies were made using fowl, and legs were left to hang over the side of the dish to use as handles.
Oh gosh.
That's amazing. It's a very visual depiction of
This is
pie.
good time because it's right before Thanksgiving. Our listeners
Exactly.
can try some of these techniques.
There you
for their
go.
Exactly.
Thanksgiving
Bring a
meal.
pie with your turkey
Well,
legs hanging
that
out.
is all the
Yeah.
fascinating pie trivia I have for today. We are just about out of time.
Oh, are we really? That's
We
sad.
are out of time. Thank you so much to our crew for being for our guests today, Pastor Clark and Olivia Tischler. Thank you so much for being our guests and joining us here on the Coffee Hour. Olivia, thank you for sharing about Teleo's story here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Pastor Clark, thank you for sharing your passion for coffee or for pie here on the Coffee Hour.
Thank you, Andy and Sarah.
We really appreciate you spending time with us here and for all that you share with us. Thanks for being a part of the Pie Social here on the Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
The Coffee Hour with Andy and Sarah is a production of KFUO. To support the Coffee Hour and KFUO Radio, visit KFUO.org. You can also text KFUO to 41444 or send an email to gifts@KFUO.org. And you can call us at 800-844-0524. KFUO. Christ for you, anytime, anywhere.